Hi, I'm Peter and welcome back to the History and Sabre Suites, the channel where I talk about HEMA, history and swords. Today I'd like to talk about my interpretations of the sword versus bayonet sections as described in Roworth and Mathewson. So the first of three techniques that I'm going to show you from Roworth is based on outside half hanger, and it looks as follows. So I'm waiting in outside guard, and when my opponent thrusts at me, I drop my point across the barrel and I hook behind the elbow of the bayonet, pulling him towards me, and I step forward with my left foot, grip the barrel of the musket, and then I'm free to thrust or cut at my opponent. Again, drop the point, step forward with the left foot, grasp and thrust. Now he doesn't say whether you should thrust or cut, so that's up to you. Now here is a variation I actually quite like. As you can see, the beginning is the same. I wait in outside guard, Max thrusts at me, I drop my point across the barrel, step forward with the left foot and grip the barrel as before, and here's the difference. Now I take the barrel, wrench it over my head, and that gives me much more space and freedom of movement in any direction I want for the variations you'll see later. Again, drop the point, step forward, grasp, and wrench it over my head, and then thrust at his face. So here are some footwork options that you've got as well. Again, drop, wrench, and thrust. Only this time step outside of the line to the right with a forward traverse, which gives you a much better angle for a cut one, for example, as I've done here, at his head. Again, wrench, thrust, the standard option. Now, wrench, thrust, or cut with a forward traverse. Now, the second technique from Roworth is actually my personal favorite. It's an old school technique. You can also see it in the 1561 manuscript by Meyer, as you can see here, for example, and it works as follows. When he thrusts at you, form an inside hanging guard and then step to the right with your right foot obliquely, that's very important, and grip through the arch of your parry and grip the barrel, and then your sword is free to move again and you can cut one, for example, at the head. Now you can make this much more effective if you actually pull at the musket and pull your opponent towards yourself, which will throw them off balance completely. And yeah, that way you can make this technique even more effective. Now this can be spun even further in that while you're pulling the musket towards yourself, you can make a passing step to the left out of the line, and that way open up your structure for a cut two, closing the line, hitting your opponent from the other side, which I quite like. Again, this is the standard version with a lunge. Here, pulling the opponent towards yourself while stepping outside of the line to the right. Once more, stepping outside of the line and pulling. And last but not least, stepping to the left, cut two at the head. Now the last one from Roworth is a simple inside parry, and he also says it's the least safe one. So all you're doing basically is opposing the bayonet on an inside guard, inside parry in that case. Again, seizing the barrel with your left hand, and then you're free to follow up with your attack. Now here's the caveat. Roworth warns us that if you're not quick enough to seize the barrel, they might disengage under your sword and hit you. Now, just as we've seen before, you have several footwork or angle of attack options here, depending on whether you grasp the barrel below or above your own hilt. That gives you other options. Here, I'm gripping the barrel below my hilt, which gives me the option to do a cut two, a descending cut, and here I'm gripping the barrel above my own hilt, which frees me up to do a cut 4 at his body. Now moving on to Mathewson's section on sword versus bayonet, which is also valid for other polearms, of course. Here are the plates, 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are also accompanied by written descriptions of those plates, and I'm going to show you that technique now. So I swapped out my Sabre 4/8 spadroon because that's what Mathewson shows in his plates, and I'm being highly accurate to the source material here. This is how the technique goes. So basically, when he comes into distance, I drop my points across their bayonets and I'm feeling him strong. Mathewson says that's very important. And whenever I feel that they're going to thrust at me, I change to an inside guard and thrust. Now once again, I wait an inside guard. They come into distance. I feel them strong with an outside half hanger. And whenever I feel they're going to thrust at me, I'm going to wrench the barrel or the bayonets to my inside, and that means their point has passed me and I'm out of the danger zone, so to speak, which frees me up to riposte at their chest or face. I really like that technique because it's quick, but it also is very timing dependent. So once again, they come into distance, drop your points across the bayonet, wrench, and thrust your riposte. And as always, you can be creative with your footwork here. And Mathewson explicitly says that with your left hand, you're free to grip the opponent's weapon or push it aside, parry with your hand, whatever suits you and whatever suits the situation. So you can try out different things here, different footwork variations and different grip variations. So concluding thoughts, Mathewson also mentions that the circular parades or parries of the small sword will be very useful, as you can see here. So following your opponent around. Keep in mind a real musket is going to be twice as heavy as the one we're using here. So you will have the advantage no matter what, using a sword against a heavy polearm or bayonet. And this will take very little practice, and you can just lock them to one side and follow them around and lock them to the other side. So basically you can change around footwork, you can work with different grips or parries with your left hand. So those of you who have experience with rapier or small sword, this is basically approaching your territory here as well. And you know, the most important thing to take away from this video is, I guess, as with all polearms, fighting against polearms with shorter weapons, is as soon as their point has passed you, you're basically safe. Now, there is a bunch of stuff that they can do. They can still drop their weapon and grapple with you, of course, but once you're past their weapon and they're still holding it and you control their weapon with your offhand, you're basically free to attack them on your own terms. Again, as you can see here, I can push aside his weapon to the left when I fail to parry with my sword. So you're free to do and try out any of these variations that you've seen in my video. And yeah, I hope it's been useful. I hope you have an understanding of the techniques. Again, these are my interpretations. I do not think that they're perfect and that there's no other interpretations out there that might be better, but for now that's how we work with them. And yeah, please leave your comments down below if you like this video, if you got something from it. And on that note, thank you so much for watching, and thanks again. See you in the next one. Bye bye.